I mean, it's an interview, you know. It's
exactly.
It's just one show. It's not like, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like people can see our feet.
Exactly.
If they saw our feet, it'd be more formal. I mean, honestly.
Okay.
Thank you so much for getting water.
We're in the frame. We're good.
Yeah, we're
And
rolling.
Is
already.
All right. Cheers.
This is already on YouTube.
Excellent. Oh,
Yeah.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah, it's already.
All right. Excellent.
We're live streaming.
To the world?
No.
Okay.
Nobody really cares.
Okay. It's part
It's
of the
just
world.
YouTube.
Okay.
I'm here with Peter Montgomery.
Hey.
He's
Josh.
a cool guy. I've known for a long time. How long have I known you?
I met you, I believe, when we were 15. And I don't know that we're dating ourselves, but what the heck? So 15.
Oh, there's no shame here on the tube.
Yeah. 15 was 1980.
Yeah.
So 1980, Telegraph Avenue, kids trying to figure out something to do, pretty much largely not going to school, and hanging out with Josh Levine, who was like one of the first of our group of kids. And then that little...
I was the first kid.
You were the first.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that there was a small amoeba and various other amoebas of kids that floated around the East Bay. And I think our little nexus probably went from like North Oakland to like Albany. And there was various different amoebas bumping into each other, but we were one of them. And it was sitting on dumpsters. And
before Amoeba Records.
Before Amoeba Records, by a good shot. But I have fond feelings for all of that.
But this isn't about us. It's about it's about the Linda Lindas and the show you went to.
Shit, yeah.
You went to the Linda Lindas.
Yes.
And they played at 924 Gilman.
Oh yeah.
Which isn't their first time playing there.
Oh, it's totally their first time playing there.
It was.
For sure, 100%.
They said that?
Oh yeah. So what can I tell you? And
this is a review of the show.
Oh yeah.
They played with some other bands.
Yeah, but my kind of review is a little bit more broad and expansive. So
that's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. So I can give a review, but I think the review also needs some context. First of all, the show was amazing, right? I mean, it was packed.
The band was...
well, there was 3 bands yesterday. Opening up, Johnny Maraca and the Maracas. And I've got that wrong, I'm sure, but I'm going to look and see if I got it. Johnny Maraca and the Marokers, okay?
Okay.
So, and then...
You can make that up.
Yeah, and then Wifey with Cher Strawberry, right?
Yeah.
Wifey's awesome, and of course local, and very now, and very here.
I can't believe I had to work.
Yeah, well, one, like most of us do, all have to figure out how to,
you can't be everywhere.
Can't be everywhere on one time at one place.
We're on this mortal coil.
Right. Before we become
then we can be more.
So yeah, definitely their first time. Super packed. The little thermometer up on the trusses up there that has the readout. I don't know exactly why it's there, but it was fluctuating. It's big red letters between like 86 degrees and 101 degrees.
Wow.
And it kept trending up to 101, and then they'd open the new double doors, the fancy new double doors on the side, and then it would get cooler and it would come down to the high 80s, and then they'd close them because the sound is blasting out into the neighborhood, and then the temperature would rise back up.
Wow.
So backstory. So we're interviewing, so this all becomes like messages and words out over the internet. You know this stuff, but some of the people in Magic TV land don't.
What about 924 Gilman?
Yeah, so you and I were part of starting that thing.
You were part of starting it too?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
we were there.
This local, so this is just like backup story to what yesterday means and why I care about it, and probably why you came over here to talk to me about it, is that yesterday was a nice kind of continuity and extension of this whole story. So I was dear friends with Tim Yohannon from back when he did the radio show before the magazine started.
Yeah.
Then when he started the magazine with Jeff Bale and Ruth Schwartz, and I helped put the first few issues together, largely because I had done my fanzine Decline back in the early 80s before Maximum Rock and Roll.
Which is a whole nother interview.
It's a whole nother interview. So, we'll scrap
you did
that
so
for
many amazing things.
Well,
I mean, you did album covers, you have multiple magazines.
Yeah. So, and you're right. We'll have to pick that up.
No, I mean, you are
the
a
context
prolific
the context
creator.
here is Berkeley back
a prolific
then.
artist,
Thank
creator of media.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I like
art, curator.
Mostly, I think of myself as a dad nowadays.
Yeah.
And you know, even though there's no kids around here because they'd be gone, but
we all wear different hats at different times,
different hats. But the you know, Tim and others were out trying to figure out something to do with the money that started accumulating from doing the magazine. Yeah. And you remember when Tim was just like, you know, he worked up at Lawrence, Lawrence Labs up on the hill. He lived here locally, spent all kinds of time on Telegraph Avenue, bumping into us young delinquent kids. But he was a dear, sweet guy and had a real tendency to adopt people under his wing. Yeah. Many people over the years, working at the Collective, working on the magazine, later on working at the store in San Francisco. I was one of those kids following him around, contributing stuff. I always had great dialogue with him about politics, about music, all of that. So when the club was starting, and the leaflets were going around about get involved, I got very involved. And I was on this thing before, you know, the club opened, and we were all trying to figure out what to do with the interior space, and, you know, all kinds of other people were involved. Of course, Larry Livermore was involved, very much trying to get the build out going. My old roommate, Louie, was involved getting the bathrooms built. I got on this thing called the decorating committee, right?
Nice.
Not very punk rock, right? The decorating committee. But, you know, the Gilman scene in a lot of ways was not the punk rock of the nihilism. It was not the punk rock of the, you know, Sex Pistols, no fun, nobody, completely just destroy everything, you know, fuck society. The kind of punk scene that certainly Tim and early Maximum Rock and Roll were trying to create had a lot of what I would consider hippie overtones of community, of collective, of creating a group of like-minded individuals to make the world better. I mean, Tim was obviously very into making the world better. So that energy went into this kind of collective spirit where, of course, everybody was talking all the time and everybody was writing manifestos. Yeah. But some of that was about like what kind of bands are we going to have here, and we're going to have everything. And some of it was, we're talking whatever the hell that was now, 37 years ago or something. Part of it was also, you know, no homophobia, no sexism. We're not going to do drugs here.
Yeah, he was really adamant.
Right? There was a lot of manifestos, a lot of...
He was so adamant about that in the beginning. I was like, whoa, that's weird.
Yeah, I liked it because...
It came to understand it.
Yeah. I liked it a lot because
no one else was doing it.
Growing up in a political context myself, kind of like whatever, the Berkeley vibe coming out of, you know, the 60s and free speech movement and People's Park and all of that, you know, kind of academic-oriented intellectuals all around me, my parents and all that. I got that Tim and Jeff and others were on this kind of manifesto, you know, socialist, collectivist idea of making the world better. And the way to do that was to have committees and organization and manifestos and tenets. You know, the tenets are still on the wall, you know. No drugs, no drinking, no sexism, no stage diving. So
No homophobia.
No homophobia, right? Like really important stuff, which, you know, in a lot of ways, some of the country, I want to say all of the country, but we're in difficult times, some of the country is caught up with, right? So anyhow, special period for me was doing the murals at Gilman before it opened, and in the first couple months of when it was open. And I was just laughing with this dude not at all. I mean, everything's covered with 50 layers of paint, right? But I was talking to this dude, Alex, there last night, and Alex is doing booking there.
Yeah.
And has been there a number of years. And Alex was telling me about, like, I got to come back later. I got the keys. I got to clean something up. And it flashed in my head. First time I thought about this in decades. So I used to have keys to Gilman, right? And there was only a few people that had keys, you know, whatever. But because I was like the head of the decorating committee, I had keys, and we had these buckets of paint, and we had everything. So I did this big mural by the door. There's some photos of it I've seen online. I did this big mural by the door that was like justice, and it was this like blind figure of a woman, really tall. It was like 15 feet tall or whatever, and she had scales, like giant weighing scales.
Yeah, I remember that.
And one of the scales had all of these people on it. And they were all kind of jumping and kind of sprawling. And the other side of the scale had the earth on it. And I'm not sure what my point was. And she had a weird triangle head. Anyhow, I'm not sure what my point was, but it was obviously very profound. It had something to do with population and destroying the planet. But so I did these murals. I did a big mural of a snake that was up on the truss, on the rafters, on the trusses. But of course, as any actual punk thing should, all that organization of like, we're going to do this and it's all going to be this way, rightly so, got like trashed. And like, you know, in later years, everything got covered up with graffiti, much more sort of CBGB's map style, almost everything. And
the Flamin' Groovies thing is still there.
I don't know, the Sweet Children graffiti from later is up there, but
yeah.
No, those murals are gone, but very sweet memories of all those early meetings, being there with, at that point, groups of kids and middle-aged people and, you know, few, I guess they're probably middle-aged then, but I considered older at the time. You remember Michael with the like top hat and the feathers and stuff, and
yeah,
there was some people that were really much more hippy-dippy that were into like, I remember this whole thing of putting on like a show that was all like Egyptian music, and like, I don't even, like very esoteric.
We had early performance art. There was Miranda July was doing a play.
Right, plays. I just remember the Egyptian music.
Remember we used to just hang out with Miranda July?
Totally.
And she was like a teenager, and we'd be like, hey, Miranda July, what's going on today? And she'd be like, oh, she'd be like in her little autistic zone.
Just wonderful
going
stuff.
On with her.
She's
amazing.
I had a long conversation with these people who were super into the Egyptian music. And I'm not talking like Egyptian rock music. I'm talking about like, it was like all this stuff about like, you know, like the authentic music, like that had not just Arabic influences, but it had like African influences and more, you know, indigenous influences, and like, don't you understand, it's not this, it's this. So again, a lot of thought, a lot of art. Okay, so that's why Gilman matters to me, because it's been in my life, like at this point, you know, a lot of my life.
And let me ask you one thing.
Yeah.
Probably and 1,000 more reasons. Yes?
1,000 more reasons?
Why Gilman matters to you?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about 1,000. I mean, in some ways, I'm not as deeply attached to it as others. I mean, you know, I'll just put it on tape here. You know, there's people for whom that place is obviously much more deeply either ingrained in their kind of let's just, I don't know, their narrative legend, you know, the Green Day people, you know, the Op Ivy people for whom that later Gilman thing becomes part of the kind of origin story. And so there's a myth making that's created around it.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't have that in there because I went off and did different things. So that original starting work was in 1986. And I'll get these dates wrong. So for the legacy, I'm sure one of the two people watching this will know all the dates right. But I believe we opened at the very end of 1986, and then 1987 was the first, full year. I stayed involved pretty much through 1987, but I was also part of, at that point, even though I had started like you, going to punk rock shows in 1979, going to the International Cafe, going to the Dewdrop Inn, taking the bus to the city.
78, I was at Temple Beautiful.
Okay, and see, that's before me.
Yeah.
But we were young kids. We've talked about...
77, I was at the Mad.
We've talked about hanging out at the Mutants Warehouse, right?
Oh, yeah.
So...
lots of good stuff.
Lots of good old guy shit. But I guess where I'm heading is, I was by that point not only interested in all kind of like whatever, electronic stuff and new wave stuff, and loving my Adam Ant and Duran and orchestral maneuvers, whatever. But I was also really into other experimental stuff. So there was, in that first year, there was a lot of experimental stuff. A lot of different things. I lived in the house with the band Negativland at that time.
Yeah.
So I lived in El Cerrito on San Pablo Avenue, kind of near Pastime Hardware, and I would take the bus down to Gilman or walk, because it was like a couple miles, and do my painting and help put together shows and be around there a lot. But later on in 1987, our flat burned down. We were above a dry cleaners. The dry cleaners caught on fire. That's another tape. That's Escape from Noise. That's saving the master tapes from the fire. That's working on the Negativland album. But different story. But so the punk thing eventually took over Gilman. And it became... There's a whole narrative in that Turn It Around movie, which is very different than my narrative, but whatever.
Tell me what that difference is, essentially, boil it down.
Well, I disagree with the whole notion that there was something to turn around. I've had endless hours of dialogue with Aaron Comet Bus about this. Yeah. And we each have different outlooks on it, and I love Aaron to death, right? Yeah. He's one of my dearest friends. But he believes, I think, much more the typical story, which is, skinheads and violence and nihilism and Nazis or whatever had taken over the scene, and the scene was kind of dead and dark and corrupt. And out of that, by the late 80s, this, like, all of those old people were washed away into the dustbin of history or fought back. And then this new young blood of young kids with positive energy sort of came out and turned a scene around and turned it into this positive thing, of which we see stuff like Lookout Records and the later Gilman stuff.
I've never heard that.
You've never heard my
No, I've never heard it put that way.
Mm.
I've never heard that, and as you can imagine, my take on what you just said is, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with my take?
No, I don't agree with what you just described. I don't think that occurred like that.
No, I don't
think that's
that
what you're saying.
Well, what I'm saying is I believe the Turn It Around movie portrays it that way.
Right,
You've seen the movie.
Yeah, I've seen the movie.
Okay, I mean, it pretty much portrays this idea that the punk rock scene in the Bay Area or Los Angeles or California had gotten dark.
I mean, there were elements.
Yes.
There were skinheads. There still are.
But this idea that something had gone astray or gone wrong and had to be righted, had to be fixed, had to be somehow a new spirit had to come around. I just don't see, because that creates a great narrative. It creates a great story. Like, this stuff was shit. Us young kids know better. We created something holistic and beautiful, and it was more about joy. I just don't see it that way. I see it more of a continuity. There were great people and great elements all along.
It was all about joy. The scene in the Bay Area from the 70s was all about joy and having a good time and having fun.
Well, and also there's a good healthy dose of nihilism in there.
And there always were nihilistic, self-immolating, cutting, drug taking.
How many of our friends were negativity, like bleeding in.
Yeah, I mean, but that was what you did for attention, or for your mental illness
I-
or whatever it was that floated your boat, right?
I've told this story plenty of times with friends, but one of my key moments of like being a teenager and exposed to like totally just like, I mean, artistically I find it beautiful, but it was also like very different than the kind of happy pop punk like thing, was like seeing Flipper at the Dewdrop and
That was a great show.
Bruce like flinging battery acid on the audience. I'm like, what the, what are you doing, man? And like,
Is that
just,
what that was?
Just terrible, like wonderful stuff, wonderful, but like, let's tear it down, let's destroy it. The world doesn't matter, screw you. Anyhow, I've had this dialogue with some people, believe it or don't believe it, feel that's the story or not, but I think that Gilman in some people's minds became something that, I guess I don't quite agree with the origin story of that part by sort of 89, 90, 91. And
Yeah.
also part of this, frankly,
I've never even heard that story put that way.
Okay, and I don't know. Is it? I don't.
I
know
mean,
if
is it something you've intuited from what you see or what you've
No,
heard?
I've talked to plenty of people my age and a little older who see it in a similar vein. And this video is turning into something different than the Linda Lindas. But we'll get back to the Linda
Oh, we
Lindas.
digress.
We digress like hell.
But this is about
Okay.
the Linda Lindas show at Gilman.
Yeah, we're going to get back
at
to that.
924
No,
Gilman
I've talked to lots
on
of friends.
September 21st.
Yes, I've talked to lots of friends who believe a little bit more what I'm telling and maybe not
We're
articulating
just
right.
digressing.
Which is that that there was a lot more both earlier East Bay punk that mattered and counted that
Tons.
wasn't necessarily included in that Gilman story.
Yeah. There was 2 hours of interview with me that was on the cutting room floor.
Right.
From that film.
That kind of stuff.
And many others. I'm not the only one.
And then
It doesn't matter.
there's the whole thing with like the young adults or Psychotic Pineapple or the Jars
Sure.
or all the early Berkeley.
I mean, the
bands.
list goes on and on.
So, okay, back to tomorrow. I mean, yesterday.
Yesterday.
Can't talk about tomorrow. Yeah, actually, we could.
We could.
I'm gonna be like answering emails and like.
Yeah, tomorrow's a work day.
Drinking coffee. Yesterday was so
tell
awesome.
me about the performance.
Okay,
Were
it was
they
just-
energetic?
Oh, are you kidding? Okay, I've rarely seen a band so absolutely
I've
fantastic
seen them.
as the Linda
I mean,
Lindas.
I've seen
Yeah.
them.
So I Mosswood I saw.
Yeah.
I was at the Giant Stadium concert on Friday night with my wife.
Great.
Which means a giant stage with
Right.
little people on it. But my first stadium show I went to since seeing David Bowie. by the way.
Okay.
But it was good.
Okay.
Fireworks were awesome. Visuals were awesome. But no, yesterday
They had fireworks.
Green Day did, yeah, like big ass fireworks. Not Linda Lindas.
No.
Were open, but yeah, no, they're big ass
So
fireworks.
Green Day has
like
fireworks.
flamethrowers.
You go see Green Day, it's fireworks. It's like Burning Man.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
like
know.
fireworks.
I mean, you know Burning Man.
Well,
I
I
don't know
mean,
Burning-
I was,
but
fireworks
They
there,
could
I'm
have burnt a man
I think
last
fireworks.
night.
Yeah.
They could have doubled
That would've
down.
been cool.
They could have. So
Maybe they did. Is
okay,
that why the fire marshal?
No.
Came and shut the show down.
Stadium.
Okay. Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, let's
At
get
Gilman last night,
Yeah,
fire marshal.
Let's connect the dots.
Okay.
These are actually fairly good dots. This is shit I really do wonderfully believe in and really applaud Green Day for doing and helping happen.
They're great guys.
So at the stadium show in San Francisco on Friday night, there was a voting registration booth,
Cool.
voting awareness booth, very well put together, obviously funded, not there just by the hell of it, there because of Green Day's involvement with the Get Out the Vote efforts. You could put in your name, find out if you're registered or not, and how to do it. Great stuff. There was a Gilman booth there.
Wow.
Because Gilman was contacted and asked, we want you to come out and put a booth. So they had
Right.
Gilman shirts and stickers, awesome stuff. Arubaya, like chicken.
Oh yeah, Baraya chicken.
Yeah. So
Fried chicken.
Yeah, so Adashi did like the catering for like before and after, like bringing local people and supporting local people.
Yeah, he's in
not just calling up
he played
like
last night.
yeah, not just calling up like whatever like Arby's or I don't
Right.
know who does catering, but
Sure.
the San Francisco Catering.com or whatever. Like get your homies out there, right? Who run the local Oakland Japanese chicken catering company.
Right.
Let's do it. Okay, let's put the stadium show behind us. Gilman, Linda Lindas, freaking awesome. Best sounding show I ever saw in that space, truthfully, like honestly.
Wow.
Part of it is because, okay, you got Side Street, 8th Street, right? Tour bus, big ass tour bus.
I saw that. I actually drove by.
Like the whole fucking
and
tour bus.
And I saw this tour bus. I'm like, whose tour bus is it?
Yeah, exactly.
I know,
could have been Motley Crue. But I don't know if Motley Crue exists.
I thought maybe because Charger was playing.
Oh yeah.
That maybe it was Matt's.
Yeah.
Maybe it was, Rancid's tour bus. And then
Matt did save the day later on in the evening with his equipment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me about Linda Lindas.
Yeah, so best sounding, absolutely fantastic. Part of it, obviously, because they had not only their bus and then their whole equipment, trailer there, but they must have had like 5 techs with them, right?
Okay.
And, sure, you have your homies as roadies or whatever, but they had like techs with like multiple guitars and everything was figured out and like tuned and mics and everything. So that little space was just filled with sounds. Drums were mic'd beautifully, equipment sounded beautiful, mic sounded beautiful. So part of it was just the sound's great. Next part, Linda Lindas. They're so absolutely fantastic, right? They all sing, which is absolutely great. I mean, I like all kinds of bands. I like all kinds of bands.
They all sang when I saw them.
Yeah, but that's not every band, right? And I'm not saying it's better or worse.
I didn't even think they were a band when I saw them.
So some bands and some whatever favorite bands in the world, you have like keyboard player, drums, singer, bass, guitar, singer, drums, whatever. But not everybody sings. Or you have like a lead, Debbie Harry who sings, and maybe like whatever, Chris Stein goes la 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 la.
Or the bass player sings backups.
But these young women, running from now 15 years old, just recently, to now 20 years old, in Eloise's case, as of I think last week, they all sing, and they all sing very differently, and they take lead on different songs, right? So Mila is back there behind the drum kit, and by the way, she's such a great drummer, and to imagine that she's like tour quality, rock steady, beautiful rhythm at age 14, sounds so great, such good spirit. She sings lead on a number of songs, right? So she's back there. They didn't have a riser, so you kind of had to look down, where is she? But she sings lead on some, and each one of them sings lead, and then the songs that they do have such different characters. There's total rip it up thrash songs, very, very political songs. Of course, Racist Sexist Boy, came out yesterday, and it was absolutely great. We don't want a racist sexist boy in office in the White House, lay it down,
cool.
Tell the crowd where it's at, and but it just sounded so good. And then the energy level, was it happy? It was fucking incredibly happy. It was just, it was that spirit, which I do believe whatever period of Gilman you're talking about, the best parts when it's great are that there is a warmth and a happiness. And so Josh, I think you know this because I've talked to you about it. When I was going back to school and probably in my early part of raising kids, I didn't go to Gilman for like a decade plus. So I have a gap in like the 2000s. But whether it was in the 90s and, seeing Green Day there, seeing some of the Lookout bands there, or more recently, before the pandemic and after the pandemic, on the good days, on the good nights, there's a joy there that is, I feel like, palpable and really different than most rock and roll venues. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not one of these people because, shit, I love going to Steak Old Deli, and I love like hanging out at the picnic tables, and I love the crazy ass elbows and knees that the kids, throw nowadays at these hardcore shows. But
fun stuff.
But Gilman has a beauty and a community to it that really came out yesterday. I'd say there was probably like 30 kids between like the ages of 7 and 10. Like, I'm serious, like
Wow.
little people there, like up front and then in the back.
Linda Lindas fans.
Linda Lindas fans with their parents. Not sure, like their parents brought them in.
Let me blow your mind.
Okay.
I saw the Linda Lindas, and I think it was, it may have been their first show.
Okay.
It was in 2019.
Okay.
And it was in Los Angeles.
Okay.
It was the benefit, Music in Chinatown.
Okay.
And they played with the Alley Cats and the Dills.
Love that.
And I was there to see the Dills. It's on my YouTube. There's some footage, some clips of Dills songs. Amazing. That was an amazing show. But I was like, who are these little kids? And they were like between, if they're 15 to 20.
Right. That's what they are right now, yeah.
Then they were 10 to, I was like, who are these little kids? I'm not going to take a video of like little kids. I didn't have a YouTube at the time. You know, you don't really know something's going to blow up. I mean, some people do, but I don't. I don't claim to have that divination. But I remember, like, these kids had something. Like all these little people on the stage, and it's like all these tiny students.
And the energy, right? The energy.
Yeah, and they were all singing, and it was like they were even switching instruments.
Right.
And
they did that yesterday.
Yeah.
They do that. So, I'm gonna get her name wrong. I gotta look it up.
What's she play?
Well, she plays guitar and bass.
Okay.
She's got the curly hair.
All right.
We're gonna get the
You don't
names.
have to look it
No,
up.
I'm gonna
People
get.
know.
But if people is not me, and I gotta get the names right. So I'm gonna get their names right, and I'm gonna embarrass myself because
you're gonna.
Because that's part of my nature.
Hey, I mean, we're almost 60.
Very, very shortly, as a matter of fact. Okay, so yeah, Bella. So I had it right in my head, and Lucia. So, but in any case, Bella and Eloise switch off bass and guitar at some times.
Yeah.
And like literally like pull off the strap, drop it down, boom, new song.
Yeah.
Just beautiful. I'm just looking at the phone here because we've got the internet. So Bella was fantastic, really nice, singing, like all of them. Again, I think one of the beauties of the Linda Lindas is different sound quality on different songs, or maybe sound quality is the wrong word, different moods on different songs. It's not all just straight like sing-songy crap.
Different voices.
Or thrash stuff. Some of them are silly about your cat, her cat.
Yeah.
And really, really cute and super sweet. Some of them are about getting to know, your friends. Some of them are wanting to be alone and not being with your friends. And some of them are highly political, right? And I'm going to look up one other thing so I can get it right again. I know we got the internet here.
Just because we have it, Peter.
I know. You're only supposed to spend like 11 hours on your phone a day.
But during an interview, how many minutes are you supposed to spend holding your phone looking at it?
No Obligation is the song, right? So that one's so damn good. It's so damn good. I don't have to wear a dress, right? I don't have to I don't have to have my hair long. These are great. They're great. And what would I say about them also? This is super important. To have young women, young female identifying people.
They all are, aren't they? I was going to ask you that.
I assume. I don't know. But let's just
maybe
say
one of them identifies as non-binary.
Perhaps.
I'm not sure. But this is a good question.
No bi or non-bi.
We don't want to assume, but female young people.
So young people.
They're young people.
They are putting out art and expression and also political sentiment and beliefs in a day and age in which that's critical. And
they're
I
doing
mean
it at
that.
a super high level.
Well, but I mean that it's critical. So we're at an inflection point. We know that there's an election coming up. Whenever you listen to this YouTube,
every moment is critical, though.
Yes, well, I believe that, but I believe, bear with me. I think this is an important time in our country, our society, and fascism and the looming potential of totalitarian demagoguery and fascism. It relies on uniform sameness and following the line and towing the line.
But we first felt that in 1984.
For sure, but what I'm saying is that
we've been through this.
I disagree. I mean, I think
you think it's worsened?
I think for
intensified.
For sure. But regardless of whether it's worsened or intensified, they're being pretty darn straightforwardly direct about it, whether it's Project 2025 or just like the ideas of like imperial president, and
right.
We can do anything we want with immunity. These are totalitarian fascist tendencies. So what it takes is speaking out, which these young women are doing. What it takes is not just following the line to say you have to do whatever, white nationalist Christian, straight along stuff. You can talk about sexuality. You can talk about your longings. You can talk about depression. You can be your own self, and you don't have to be like a prim person, perfect person in a little suit or something.
Right.
You can be your own. These things are vitally important, because whether it is Putin in Russia or in the early part of the last century, other dictators, they rely on people to follow them and not question things. And these young people are questioning. So that's a lot of what I felt yesterday. There's the happiness, there's the positive mental attitude, the excitement, the kitty cat whiskers.
The super fun punk band.
Super fun. Oh, the dancing was,
Yeah.
So great, but it's also really important to have that expression.
Well, I agree. I mean, I feel like for us to have in our society a band of young people, any band of young people that's popular and out in the world, spreading any kind of message that people are interested in, and like, you're a grown up, you're a man, a full-grown man we're old men. We would go to that show, and we'll go to that show again, and it's like, I want to see what the youngsters are doing.
Well, and inspiring. So I was there with Penelope for, or next to Penelope for part of it, whatever. We're hanging out, we're jumping up and down. So
Penelope
Houston, yeah, who
the singer of the Avengers,
and the singer of many of her own
famous punker.
Yeah. So Penelope who was
fantastic.
Who's fantastic.
Right?
She was right there when Linda Lindas, jumping up and down and pogoing and stuff. But when the Linda Lindas play Rebel Girl, it's a great cover. It has new meaning coming from them. It's bringing it into 2024, and like Penelope's going crazy. She's like, Rebel Girl, and that's a direct line connection, right?
I remember seeing Bikini Kill play Rebel Girl,
right,
at 924 Gilman.
It's so great.
More than once. Okay. That was amazing.
That's a direct line, right?
Yeah.
And lineage matters also, right? Carrying a lot of this stuff through. Why do we like going to shows like that? The music sounds good. The bass sounds good, right? When the bass comes across at you and it hits you and you feel
it's the energy.
It's the energy, but I think there's also
the vibe.
There's continuity.
The vibe, man.
Yeah.
Kids are about the vibe.
So beautiful.
Are you into the vibe?
I am very into the vibe.
Oh,
the vibe is very important.
I'm into the vibe too.
Yeah. You have a lot of different vibes. That's
me.
The one thing
I got vibes.
I admire about you. You have the playa vibe.
I vibe.
Yeah.
I vibe in different directions.
I am glad to have the Gilman vibe. I'm glad Linda Lindas came. one of the things that they paused several times during the set and sort of just looked around and said, this is so great to be here, right?
Well, I'm glad we got to talk about this. This is going to be just one of many talks that I hope we get to have. Usually I hug people. Thank you so much.
I'm hugging you, Josh.
All right. Thanks, Peter.
All right.
It was a wonderful, wonderful interview.